I was fortunate that when I was about 7 years old, I had a lady that ran a hardware store in Montello. Her name was Jo Sesklubba, and she taught me how to tie flies. Jo taught a lot of kids how to tie flies, and some people like me are still tying. And throughout life, I've had people that are good fly tiers that have taken the time to share information with me about how to do it the right way. And that has made it easier for me the rest of my life to tie flies. I become a better tier because people have shared their ideas with me. And I think it's important to learn from all the different techniques because all those will apply to the fly you're going to tie. If you're tying something as simple as a bluegill fly, there's things you can learn from the other types of flies that you can bring back into that fly as well. It makes you better. The more styles and the more you can do, the better tier you become, even if it's just narrowed to one style. I think it's important to tie a fly, when you're teaching somebody else how to tie a fly, to tie something that's simple. A good one today is actually a mop fly. And people wonder what's a mop fly. Well, they've got these wash mitts and rugs and things that make these little microfiber nuggets. And all you do is tie those on a hook basically and put a little collar around with a bead on. And I was out last week and caught a limit of bluegills on these mop flies, one right after another. So it's a fly that's easy for people to tie and it catches fish. With the youth programs, the reason we have the kids tie flies, we're not trying to make them fly tiers. What we're trying to do is to encourage them to fish. So at programs like down at Poinet and Milwaukee Sentinel Sports Show, we teach a kid. Last year we had 2,613 kids tie a fly. And we have them tie a bluegill fly and a simple version like the mop fly or another one called a panfish bugger. Nothing to it. There's a lot of flies that simple. The thing is, once you do this and catch a few fish, you want to tie more flies, more flies, more flies, and then you get into all different types of flies you can tie. I've taught kids 4 and 5 years old how to tie this with no problem. We hope that if they go out and catch a fish on something they made themselves, they get hooked on fishing first. And then the rest will follow. They might become a fly tier, they may never tie a fly after that, but if they get hooked on fishing, because of that, that's why we have them tie a fly. I'm not that great a fisherman compared to some of the guys I fish with that are just excellent, but my crutch is my flies because I can change little things.
He's a great friend. I've known him for about 20 years. I would probably say that Bob is the best fly tier in Wisconsin. And the reason for that is that he just grabs a hold of things and does deep dives into things. He is so organized, his fly tying area, but he not only ties flies that other people have tied through time and created, but he's an innovator. He creates a lot of his own flies that are very successful.
My go-to fly, if nothing else has worked, has been an emu bugger. And I've worked over the years to try and design something a little different.
His flies stand out because they're beautiful creations, and he's using the best materials, and they catch fish. So that's the bottom line, of course. If they catch, if you tied just one feather on a hook and it did the job, but his are creations, and they're specific for certain situations, which is even more important.
I always loved to fish, and fly tying is part of it. I grew up in Montello, between the Montello and Fox River, and I fished just about every day. It was fun making lures, making something myself, and then catching a fish on something I made myself. And I enjoyed that so much I just kept with it. Tied for about 68 years now, and I think I'm enjoying it more now than I ever have. I've tied as many as 7,000 to 8,000 a year. I've tied as few as maybe 50 or 100 a year, but if you average 2,000 to 3,000 a year in the last 68 years, that's probably about what I've tied. I've tried to tie as many different types of flies as I can. Every pattern, if you're going into bass bugs and you're stacking here, that's one technique. If you're going into full dress salmon flies, and the detail and how you tie in a material is totally different than what we just tie in terms of a bluegill or a trout fly. Small trout flies getting down to size 32, 28, 24 is a whole lot different than tying a musky pike fly, and how you use the materials, considering the weight of the fly. So you learn from every fly you tie, whether it be a trout fly, a bluegill fly, a bass fly, a musky fly, or just decorative in terms of the skill.
He's always willing to share what he knows. A lot of people know how to tie flies, but they don't share it. Bob will show you everything he knows and be happy doing it.
I just have so much fun tying. If I could pass that on to others, they could have half as much fun as I've had in my lifetime. It'd be great.